Most people imagine royal dinners filled with heavy gold plates, long tables, and endless rich food. Yet the private meals of Queen Elizabeth II were often quiet, careful, and sometimes surprisingly unusual. She could refuse garlic completely, eat the same simple lunch many days in a row, and even send back fruit if it was cut the wrong way. These small habits may sound simple, but they reveal something deeper about discipline, routine, and a life lived under constant attention. Over the decades, chefs, palace staff, and royal biographers shared small glimpses into the Queen's dining table. Their stories describe a woman who loved order more than luxury. According to former palace chef Darren McGrady, the Queen often preferred grilled fish, plain vegetables, and small portions instead of grand meals. Even dessert had rules, and chocolate was welcome, but only in certain forms. Many guests expected rich royal banquets, yet the Queen herself often ate like someone following a quiet personal code. These details may seem small, yet they open a quiet window into royal life. What does a queen truly eat when the cameras are gone? And why would the most famous monarch in the world follow food rules that sometimes seemed almost strict? In this documentary, we will explore 15 strange and fascinating facts about the meals of Queen Elizabeth II. Some are charming, others are unexpected. A few may even change how you imagine life inside the palace walls. Before we continue, take a quiet moment to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy thoughtful royal history like this. Many viewers here remember the long reign of the Queen and the steady presence she brought to the world. If one of these stories reminds you of a memory or a moment from her lifetime, feel free to share it in the comments below. These conversations help keep history alive. One of the earliest surprises about the Queen's meals was her deep dislike of garlic. According to palace kitchen staff, garlic almost never appeared in food prepared for her personal table. The reason was simple and practical. The Queen met hundreds of people every week. A strong smell could make those close conversations uncomfortable. So while many famous chefs loved garlic, the royal kitchen quietly kept it away from her plate. This small rule created an interesting contrast. Guests at state banquets might enjoy complex dishes, yet the Queen's own plate often remained very simple. Grilled Dover sole, light salad, or small pieces of chicken were common choices. Former chefs explained that she preferred food that allowed her to continue working without feeling heavy or tired. For a woman carrying the responsibilities of a nation, even lunch had to support the rhythm of duty. At this point, you might wonder whether royal meals were ever relaxed or playful. The answer is yes, but in quiet ways. The Queen had a gentle love for afternoon tea. Small sandwiches, warm scones, and simple cakes appeared almost every day. According to reports, she enjoyed jam pennies, tiny circles of bread with strawberry jam. If you enjoy hearing these small personal details about history, consider subscribing so you will not miss the next story we share. And another curious habit involved fruit. The Queen reportedly preferred bananas eaten with a knife and fork. A chef would trim the ends, slice the peel carefully, and present the fruit already prepared. She would then cut small round pieces rather than lifting the banana by hand. This quiet detail surprised many new staff members. Yet it reflected something very old in royal tradition, the careful distance between public dignity and everyday behaviour. Stories like this remind us that royal life is often built from routines. Behind the crowns and ceremonies were daily habits repeated for decades. If any of these details surprise you, you are not alone. Many historians first learned them through interviews with palace staff after the year 2012, when the Queen celebrated her Diamond Jubilee. If you have thoughts about these traditions, or you are always welcome to share them in the comments. Yet perhaps the most surprising habit was how rarely the Queen changed her lunch. According to Darren McGrady, she often chose grilled fish with spinach or zucchini day after day. Many people might find that boring, but for her, repetition created calm. When your schedule is filled with meetings, ceremonies, and red boxes of government papers, a familiar meal can feel like a quiet anchor in the middle of a demanding day. Still, this was only the beginning of the strange food rules that shaped her table. But even this careful routine hides another mystery. The Queen had very clear opinions about how food should look, not only how it tasted. And some of those preferences surprised even experienced palace chefs today. Behind the palace kitchen doors, presentation mattered almost as much as flavour. Chefs quickly learned that the Queen noticed small details. If fruit was bruised, it quietly disappeared from the tray. If vegetables were overcooked, they were rarely served again. This was not harshness. It was simply the standard she had followed for most of her life. For someone raised in royal discipline, order at the table reflected order in daily life. Another unusual habit involved sandwiches. When the Queen enjoyed afternoon tea, the crusts were always removed. That may sound familiar to many people, yet the interesting detail was the shape. Sandwiches were cut into very small squares or thin fingers. Large pieces were never placed on the tray. According to reports from palace chefs, the reason was partly tradition and partly elegance. Smaller pieces allowed quiet conversation to continue without interruption. Imagine an afternoon room at Windsor Castle, sunlight touching the teacups and a tray of delicate sandwiches placed beside the Queen. Yet even here, there was a small twist. The Queen rarely finished the entire tray. She preferred tasting small portions rather than eating large amounts. In fact, many former staff members said she often stopped eating before she felt completely full. This habit surprised guests who expected royal meals to be large and indulgent. Instead, her approach to food was careful and controlled. Around this time in the story, it is worth asking a simple question. Why would someone with access to the finest food in the world choose such modest portions? Some historians believe the answer lies in her early childhood. During the years of World War II, food rationing shaped daily life across Britain. Even the royal family followed ration rules. According to biographers such as Robert Hardman, these early experiences stayed with the Queen for the rest of her life. Waste was discouraged. Simplicity was respected. That same sense of restraint appeared again in another curious food rule. The Queen almost never ate starch when dining alone. Potatoes, pasta, and rice were often absent from her private meals. Instead, she preferred grilled fish, chicken, or small portions of meat with vegetables. Former chef Darren McGrady explained that this habit helped maintain energy during long working days. Without heavy starch, she felt lighter and more alert. Some viewers may find this surprising, others might recognize the discipline. If this story reminds you of habits from earlier generations, feel free to share your thoughts below. Many people who grew up during the 1940s and 1950s remember similar ideas about moderation and balance. And if you enjoy learning these quiet historical details, subscribing to the channel helps us continue telling them. Yet moderation did not mean the Queen ignored pleasure completely. She had a well-known love for chocolate. In fact, palace chefs often said chocolate desserts were her favourites. Chocolate biscuit cake, chocolate mousse, and chocolate sponge cake appeared more often than other sweets. One particular dessert became almost legendary inside the palace kitchens. The chocolate biscuit cake served at royal tea tables was so popular that it was reportedly chosen as the groom's cake at the wedding of Prince William in 2011. And still, even chocolate followed certain rules. The Queen preferred dark chocolate rather than very sweet varieties. Desserts that balanced richness with subtle flavour were more likely to reach her table. A heavy sugar taste was rarely welcomed. Once again, the pattern appeared. Pleasure was acceptable, but always within careful limits. Another strange detail concerned seasonal fruit. the Queen believed strongly in eating what was in season. Strawberries, for example, were welcomed only during the British summer months. If they appeared in winter, she reportedly questioned the kitchen staff. According to reports from former palace chefs, she once sent a question to the kitchen asking why strawberries had appeared so early in the year. The message was clear. Nature had its own calendar, and the royal table should respect it. These small stories reveal something important about her character. She did not simply accept whatever luxury the palace could provide. Instead, she quietly guided the rhythm of the kitchen through personal values shaped over decades. Routine, moderation, and tradition formed the foundation of her meals. Another quiet ritual appeared every morning. The Queen began her day with tea and simple biscuits before breakfast. Later, breakfast itself was usually modest. A small bowl of cereal, yogurt, or toast with marmalade was common. Sometimes eggs appeared, but rarely in large portions. According to palace staff, the Queen preferred brown eggs from royal hens kept on the estate. Even this small detail showed the connection between the royal household and the surrounding land. Yet perhaps the most interesting breakfast story involved her reading habits. While eating breakfast, the Queen often reviewed official documents delivered in the famous red boxes. Government papers, letters, and reports arrived daily. Imagine beginning your morning meal while quietly reading matters of state. In this way, food and duty blended together. At this point, another question appears. Did the Queen ever break her own rules? According to some accounts, there were moments when routine gave way to comfort. On quiet evenings, especially during weekends at Balmoral Castle, she sometimes enjoyed simple grilled meat from the outdoor barbecue. Family members, including Prince Philip, were known to enjoy these relaxed meals together. The atmosphere was far removed from formal palace dinners. These glimpses remind us that behind royal tradition stood a human life shaped by family moments and personal preferences. Yet even after decades on the throne, some food habits of the Queen remained almost mysterious. And one of those habits involved a small dessert that carried a story stretching back many decades, all the way to the early years of her reign. One of the most curious traditions in the Queen's dining life involved a dessert that seemed simple at first glance. The chocolate biscuit cake was not an elaborate creation. It was made from crushed biscuits, melted chocolate, butter, and sometimes a light touch of sugar. Yet this quiet dessert held a special place in royal memory. According to former palace chef Darren McGrady, the Queen loved it so much that if one cake was not finished, the remaining slices travelled with her from palace to palace until the last piece was eaten. This small story may sound charming, but it reveals something important. The Queen did not chase endless variety. Instead, she valued familiarity. When a dessert pleased her, it remained part of her routine for many years, and staff members knew that this cake would often appear on the tea table when she returned from travel. Yet travel itself created another unusual rule about royal meals. When the Queen visited foreign countries, her personal menu often remained surprisingly cautious. According to reports from royal staff, the kitchen team avoided shellfish, very spicy dishes, and unfamiliar tap water. The reason was simple safety. During international tours, illness could disrupt an entire diplomatic schedule. For that reason, the Queen's meals abroad were often carefully controlled, even when visiting famous culinary capitals. This careful approach reflected the weight of her position. Every meal carried quiet responsibility. A simple stomach illness could affect meetings with presidents, ambassadors, or prime ministers. In that sense, the food became part of royal duty. Still, there were small moments when personal preference quietly appeared. One example involved jam. The Queen reportedly enjoyed jam made from fruit grown on royal estates. At Balmoral Castle in Scotland, berries from the surrounding land were often used to prepare preserves served at breakfast or tea. These jars of jam were not grand royal treasures, yet they connected the royal household to the rhythm of the countryside. Another curious detail involved how the Queen signalled that she had finished eating. According to palace etiquette, when she placed her knife and fork together on the plate, the entire table understood the message. Even if other guests were still eating, the meal slowly moved toward its end. This quiet signal showed how deeply royal dining traditions were shaped by centuries of protocol. Yet perhaps one of the most surprising facts concerned how rarely the Queen actually indulged in rich food. State banquets at Buckingham Palace were famous for elaborate menus. Guests might enjoy lobster, fine wines, and complex desserts served on glittering china. But during many of these events, the Queen herself ate only small portions. Her role was to host, to speak, and to guide the evening. The meal itself was often secondary. This contrast created a quiet mystery. The world imagined endless royal luxury, yet the Queen's personal habits remained modest. According to several royal biographers, including Robert Hardman, her relationship with food was shaped more by discipline than indulgence. Another interesting habit appeared during evening drinks. Before dinner, the Queen was known to enjoy a small gin and dubonnet with a slice of lemon and ice. Later, a glass of wine might accompany dinner. On some evenings, champagne appeared during special occasions. Yet even here, moderation remained the rule. Former staff members often noted that the Queen valued clarity of mind above all else. These details build a picture of a life guided by balance. Meals were not simply moments of pleasure, they were quiet spaces between long hours of work, diplomacy, and ceremony. And if you have enjoyed exploring these unusual traditions, consider subscribing to the channel so more stories like this can continue. Many viewers here remember watching royal events over the years, from weddings to jubilees. Your thoughts and memories in the comments help bring these histories to life. Now we arrive at perhaps the most meaningful observation of all. After more than 70 years on the throne, the Queen's eating habits still reflected the values of an earlier generation. Routine, moderation, respect for tradition. These qualities appeared again and again in the stories told by palace chefs and staff. When we look at the 15 strange facts behind her meals, a deeper pattern emerges. The banana cut with a knife and fork, the absence of garlic, the careful choice of seasonal fruit, the modest portions at grand banquets. Each detail seems small on its own, yet together they reveal a life shaped by steady discipline. For many people who lived through the 20th century, these habits may feel familiar. They echo a time when food was valued, not wasted. When routines created stability in uncertain years. The Queen grew up during a period of war, rebuilding, and great change. Perhaps her careful meals were a quiet reminder of those lessons. In the end, the royal table was not only about luxury, it was about rhythm. Morning tea, simple lunch, afternoon sandwiches, small dinners after long days of duty. Over decades, these quiet rituals formed the background of a historic reign. When historians study great leaders, they often focus on speeches, laws, and global events. Yet sometimes the most human truths appear in the smallest habits. A favourite cake carried from palace to palace. A question about strawberries arriving too early in the year. A banana carefully sliced on a royal plate. These details remind us that even a queen lived through ordinary moments between extraordinary responsibilities. And perhaps that is why these stories continue to fascinate us. Behind the crown was a person who valued routine, quiet comfort, and familiar tastes. A simple meal, shared with family, or enjoyed alone after a long day, can tell us more about a life than any grand ceremony. In the quiet rhythm of those meals, the long story of Queen Elizabeth II unfolded day by day.